Well, good afternoon, folks, and welcome to the AutoCAD Tips and Tricks Part 2 Technical Webcast from Civil Survey Solutions. My name is Jonathan Taylor, and I'm really just your MC for today for this particular webcast, which is going to be presented to you by my colleague, as you can see there, Selwyn Pendergast. Selwyn, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Hey, Selwyn.
Yes, Jonathan.
If you can stay around to the end, please do, because we are going to have sort of a very loose sort of chat about the next AutoCAD-based technical webcast. And your feedback and ideas. We'll discuss how we will receive your feedback and ideas at the very end as to what the next AutoCAD-based webcast could be about. So your feedback is going to be very important. On that, it's my pleasure to hand over to Selwyn. So for those of you that have watched these before, you'll know Selwyn's a gun in regards to the AutoCAD side of things. Strong background in CAD management. And as if you've seen his other webcasts, he's got an excellent load of content to be able to certainly have a look at. And certainly today, there's going to be some great stuff as well, Selwyn. So I'll leave you to it. And look, maybe we should preface the whole thing, Selwyn, by saying, look, if we can't fit it all in, there'll be a part 3. we'll just keep tagging on extra. Go on.
I suspect not this time.
No.
We've got sort of more major, some really small topics to cover today and some larger ones, but I suspect we'll be over and done within the hour. And if it does extend further, I can always add more tips and tricks down the track and do a third one. But yeah, the list I have at the moment, I suspect we'll cover pretty much today. Okay. All right. Well, I'll take over now, Jonathan. Thank you for the introduction. Last time we covered quite a lot of tricks. There were 60-something items that we covered back then. Today, I've only got 20-odd items, so it's going to be a bit more relaxed. However, I hope that you guys will be able to get something out of this session today. It's going to be fairly varied. There's no flow to the tips and tricks that I'm giving generally, but we'll just see how we go along. We're going to have a look at some of the layout controls, some stuff to do with the interface, how we deal with X references, toggling through viewports, copying data from blocks, and a few other bits and pieces to do with the layer manager and a few other tools. So what we'll do to start with is we're going to have a look at layer manager. And I've just got this drawing here. It's not one of our drawings. It's just a standard file that comes from a set of drawings that we have. When we have a drawing, we might find that we've got a lot of text in our drawing and it's slowing down the regeneration, or we might have hatch in there and we want to be able to see through the hatch. There's two commands. There's one called Qtext. So if I type Qtext at the command line or at the cursor, I have the option of turning it on and off. When Qtext is turned on, the text will become rectangles. So I'll turn Qtext on, regenerate, R-E-G-E-N, and now all the text in the drawing will show as rectangles. Still able to be edited, so the content is there. So if I double click, I should be able to modify the text. And when I go Qtext and turn it off, the display will stay the same. However, when we do a regen once more, the content will change back to the text. Same with hatch or any of the fill objects that we have in our drawing. There's a command in here called fill. These two commands aren't on the command line, aren't on the menus anywhere, but fill, if it's turned off, we don't see anything immediately, but if we press regen, you'll see that the fill items are now able to be looked through or disappear off screen. So you can do whatever you want in the area where the fill is, any changes or whatever you want. And then when you've finished with the fill, or you want the fill to return, just type fill once more, turn it on, and press regen. And that fill or the fill objects will return to as they were. So it's an easy way of clearing up the screen. If you're needing to work in, say, this area, and you're finding that when you're selecting, I'm going right to left, I'm picking up the hatch each time. If I come out of the window, I can select around. So with the fill off, I'm able to just come in and select the objects as I would hope to, and it will ignore the hatch. So I'll just turn that back on. So that's a couple of really basic sort of things for display, just to make it a little bit easier for drafting. You'll also, when you're modifying items, you know that you've got these grips online, and so you've got the end grips, the centerline grip, the mid grip, and the end grip. If I'm drawing a line, I can come down here. I've got O-snap on down here. My settings are set to end, center, intersection, extension. I might be in an area that I can't get to the endpoint over here, so I can come to the other end of the, sorry, I'll get rid of extension. So I can come to the end. If I press tab, keep on pressing tab, I'll be able to select the O-snaps that are available for that line. You can see that I've got the green one up here, and if I press tab again, I'll be snapping to that end. So snap up to this end, I'll come back here, and I'll press tab again and click here, and you'll see that it snaps to the other end. The same thing with circles and arcs. I can come down here and I press tab and it will cycle through the available snaps. So I might want to snap to the center of that arc. Once that grip over there displays, I can click onto that center. So that's an easy one with the grips. If you're in a congested area and you can't get to the endpoint or midpoint or whatever it may be, you can click somewhere on the line and have your O-snap set and just press the tab button, and it will cycle through all the O-snap items or areas that are available for that object. Staying on the theme of grips, if we grab a line and I pick one of the grips, we'll see on the command line that the command line changes to different modify commands. So initially it was stretch. Hold on, I'll just make this one a little bit bigger just so you can see what's going on. If I press space, I can move. Space again, rotate, scale. There's the next one, space, mirror, and it'll just cycle through. You have the normal commands that you have with the full commands in AutoCAD. So if you're using move, you can set a base point and you can tell it to copy. And you'll notice on screen, it says here, specify move point or, and then there's a little down arrow. If we click the down arrow, it will expand those options that are available for that command. So you don't have to go down to the command line. You don't have to type up here. You can actually click on that down arrow, press on the down arrow, and you can choose base point. I'll use that as the base point, and you can move. Okay, so in our drawing, we've got an object that is the correct color, line type, and layer. Say this line here, it's on the layer AMLWK, set to by layer for line weight, and the line type is set to by layer. If I've selected the line, right click, we've got here add selected. What add selected will do, it will grab the properties of the item that we've selected. This one is a line, which it says over here. So add selected, now I draw a line and it adopts all the settings of this line that we just selected. So if I do the same thing with this red one, right click, add selected, draw a line. If it's a line, it'll start the polyline command. So if we have an arc, I'll just explode one of these. So we've got an arc here. No, we've still got a block, I think. No, an arc. Right click, add selected, and now the arc command starts with the same properties as the one I've selected to start with. So rather than having to go through, set your layer current, set your line type, your line weight, and all that sort of stuff, just highlight, right click, add selected, and you'll have that same setting. That was obviously a spline. So that's what it will draw based on whatever that object is. Or it was an ellipse, sorry. So that's an easy way of just adding content to your drawing based on the settings that are already in your drawing or the way that the objects are set up. Another method of matching objects is the Match Properties tool. Match Properties generally will match everything that an object has associated with it. So I'm going to use this as the source object, and down here we'll see we have settings. If we click on settings, we can get it to match the color, the layer, line type scale, and many other objects or settings, and then we can get it to work with only dimensions or text, and so we can actually isolate, you know, any of the dimensions. We don't want the dimensions to update if we've selected multiple objects. So we can refine the properties that we're going to match. I'm going to leave it as everything, and I'm going to choose that there. So now that ellipse or spline, I think it's a spline now, will match the properties of that rectangle that we just chose. So we may not want color to match. You know, we can turn off color. We only want to go to layer. We don't want to change any of the other settings. We can turn all those off. And then OK, and then it will match. So it will have only matched the layer. You might find that when you're drawing, the colors are a bit strange. If we go to the Home and Modify tab, expand that, and we have a look at the entry here, it will set our objects to by layer, which is very handy when you're drawing. So we can come through and it will set all those objects to by layer. So all those objects now will be set to by layer. It's normal practice to draw by layer, but sometimes it depends where you are. Sometimes you have to assign a color and it doesn't always work the way you want. So if you need to go through and change some objects to by layer, that could be the easiest way. Or you select and you come over into the color here and we change it to by layer here. So really, it's up to you how you do that sort of thing. We've also got a command called join. I'll just go over to this drawing that we used last time that we were in our tips and tricks. We'll see here we've got an arc, we have another arc, and a polyline. They're separate entities at the moment. So we're going to use the join command. We'll go to the Home ribbon, click on Modify, and then we'll come down to the bottom line here and it says join. So what we're going to do is going to use the join command. We're going to choose the objects that we want to join. And now if you look at those, that's one object. And it's become a polyline because that's the common object that can be used between these objects. You'll notice also at the ends or the vertices that there's bigger gaps. That's all controlled by line type generation, LT-gen. So if we come up here, down here, line type generation, we'll turn that on, enabled, and you'll see that we now have even spacing for the labels on the line. So when you've got the line work that doesn't look quite right and you want the lines to be consistent all the way through, just turn on line type generation. That can also be done by right-clicking. Sorry, I'll get out of that. And polyline. And I thought it was in there, but it's not. Sorry, guys, I thought it was available in the flyout also, but obviously not. Okay. Hatching is another thing that can cause issues. I'm just going to draw some polylines. I'll change the line type to just by layer. Not a very good line to, so we've got some polylines and we've got some gaps in here. So if I try to hatch this object here, a closed boundary cannot be determined. So if we look here, it shows us where the gaps are, and we want it to hatch over to here. So there's a variable, a system variable in AutoCAD. It's not on a menu anywhere, and the command is HP gap toll. So that's hatching pattern gap tolerance. So press on enter for that, and generally it's set to 0. So that signifies that the lines have to touch at each point when you're creating a hatch. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to pick on screen. I want to have my hatch tolerance of that, and it should be okay for that end. Now I'll use the hatch command again, pick a point, and it's telling me the hatch boundary is not closed. What do you want to do? Do not hatch this area or continue hatching this area. When we click on continue hatching this area, it'll be taking into consideration that HP gap toll setting. So now you can see that we have the hatch, it continues up, follows this line through, and you'll see on the other side, if the hatch actually had the thing, it would continue up here. So I'll just right click, I'll generate boundary, and you'll see that that's what it's used for its hatching. So it's filled in those little blank areas, which is always handy if your hatch isn't closed. You know, it hatches, or the line work is usually only a few millimeters out, but it's usually enough for the hatch not to work. So with the command HP gap toll, you'll be able to set a tolerance. You know, I've got something fairly big here, like 16 units, which is a lot. But when you're working normally, you know, you'll only have it set to a fraction of a meter. You know, like maybe 50 mil or something like that, because that's sort of what your tolerance will be normally. You might want to make it bigger for certain situations, as I did here. But when your hatch doesn't work, set the HP gap toll to the tolerance that you want for the hatch, and you'll be able to hatch that area.
Selwyn.
Yes.
Ashley has just provided us with some, if you can just get that hatch back again, sorry, just provided us with a very interesting little comment around gap tolerance. If you just select the hatching and get the contextual menu up, on the options panel, pull that down. Gap tolerance. Yeah, okay. It's not actually available to pick, but I think it's because that's unassociative, so that's fine. But gap tolerance is actually hidden, just a couple up right at the very top there, but it's actually grayed out just there. Yeah.
Okay. Hold on.
Sorry.
We'll just
Yeah, and set prior to hatch creation, which is
okay.
Yeah.
I'll get rid of this.
I don't want to take you too far off track, but yeah.
Options, gap tolerance, and then you'll be able to set it. I'll
Thanks,
go 15.
Ashley.
I wasn't aware that it was on the menu, so thank you very much, Ashley. So that's hatch. We've got a drawing that's got multiple layouts in here. There's not going to be much in them, but if we press Control Page Down, we'll be able to cycle through each of the layouts. Control Page Up will cycle through the layouts in the opposite direction. So Control Page Up, Control Page Down, and you'll be able to cycle through the templates without clicking on screen. Just one less click, and sometimes it's easier just to use your hands to do things. While we're in, we'll go to a layout. Okay, we've got objects in model space, but we want them to come through to paper space. There is a command called change space, and that's located on the home panel under modify, we drop it down, and I think it's the second one across, change space. So change space, click on the objects. I want to change their space. So I want to take them from model space into our current layout. So select objects, enter, and you'll see now that those two objects have come through to paper space or to layout. And if I go into the model and I select, those objects are no longer in model space. So you may have found that you've put some annotation in the wrong area. It should be in model space or it should be in a layout. You'll be able to bring that through either way, and it will maintain the scaling that it has from whatever space it's come from, whether it's model or layout. Okay, so that's a handy one if you've messed up a little bit with your drafting and you've gone to the wrong layout or something like that. You can bring stuff through from each of the spaces and send it back. Okay. We will go back to model space. We might find that we have, I'm just going to draw some lines. I'm going to change line type to continuous just so it's, don't follow my example with drafting here, please. I'm just knocking stuff up as I go along. I'm just going to draw 3 lines. Actually, I might draw 4. And you'll find that when you might find you're in a congested area and you need to select an object. If we hold Shift, hold on, we just hover over these. One of these is highlighted. If I hold Shift space, it will cycle through each of the objects on that common point or within a tolerance. So I've got the one to the right highlighted. Sorry, I'll go Move, Shift, spacebar, enter, and it should, I didn't select that correctly, but you're able to cycle through each of the objects there by using Shift space. Bring objects into your drawing. There's a cool thing in here called Design Center. That's located on a View panel under Palettes. And it's, hold on, it's that one there, Design Center. So we have a series of drawings. We've got open drawings. I've got 2 drawings open at the moment. The one we're in at the moment is called Filters, which is this one here. If I expand Filters, click on Blocks, it shows me all the blocks that are within this current drawing. Same with the dimension styles, layers, line types, all that sort of stuff. And what we're going to do is we're going to bring some data, some settings from the layout drawing, which I have open. So there's blocks in here. It goes through and it generates images of all the entities that are within that drawing. So we've got layers. If we go back to blocks, I can click on armchair and I can click and drag that into my current drawing. So that will bring that in. Same with office chair, click and drag. Sorry about the scales, but it's just showing you what can be done with the different objects that are available from other drawings. Doesn't mean the drawing has to be open to bring these things through. If we go to layers, I'll bring up the layer manager. And just while I'm in here with layers, you'll see that when I move it around, it's trying to attach to the AutoCAD window. If I hold Control, I can drag and drop that wherever I want and it won't attach to the AutoCAD window. However, we've got this here. These are our current layers, and these are the layers that are within the drawing layout. So I might want to bring all these layers into my current drawing. So highlight them all, click, drag, drop. And you'll see that all those layers and those definitions have come into this drawing based on what was in that original drawing. Same with layouts. You might have a layout you want to bring in. It's not a very good example, this one, but drag layout 3, drop it, and you'll see down the bottom now we have layout 3 in our drawing. And that will be based on that other drawing. I'll just close that so you can see what's going on there. So that's brought in that layout from that other drawing. So if we have a look here, we have a look at layout 3, that will be the same. The content won't be the same, just the layout. And it will have brought in the viewport also. Oh no, it hasn't, it's only brought in the layout. So you can bring in any of these objects, line types from any drawing. I'll go into this drawing here. So I've got other blocks in this drawing. And I'm able to bring those blocks into the current drawing. So drag and drop. And that would have dropped in somewhere. I'll just get rid of that. And that's that block I just brought in. Okay, so we're going to have a look at references now. I'm going to open another drawing. I've just got to locate. So sorry about that. I've got a drawing here that's going to have some issues with reference files, I suspect. Okay, so we've got our reference manager, and it's showing us here that we've got not found, orphaned, and all that sort of stuff. I know on my system here, my reference files are located in here. The drawing I just opened is located here, but I need to get the reference files to be found in this location here. Okay, I'll just move that out of the way. In each of the drawings, you can set a project name. So if I type project name, I have already entered a project name here of ML12001. And that's based on this series of drawings here. So every drawing in this, in here, will have the project set to ML12001. That can be set in your template if need be. However, I'm going to come through and I'm going to set a reference in our options for project ML1201. So I'm going to bring up options, OP. And for those who have wandered around options, you'll see here there's a project files search path. Highly unutilized or hardly used at all. So what I'm going to do, I've got a project name here for ML12001. I'm going to add a name of ML12001. These names have to be identical. So I have a project file search path name set based on the name set to project name down here. I'll expand this and I'm going to add a folder in here. And the folder I want to go to is, my drawings are in here, my references are stored in here. It says the folder's empty, but there's drawings in there, but I'm going to set that folder to that entry. So project ML12001, any reference files, X references and things like that are located in this folder here. So now I'll click apply, okay. I'll close this drawing. I won't save it and I'll reopen it. Close that. And you now see that our reference files have come in because we have set that project name and the project path. If I open another drawing out of that folder, we've got sheet 11 of 11. I'm going to grab sheet 18 of 18 When I'm dragging a drawing into AutoCAD, I don't drop it on the window. I drop it on the title bar up the top here. And when I do that, it opens the file. If I opened it into the drawing window, it would insert the file into our drawing. So if you want to open a drawing, just drag it and drop it onto the title bar at the top. So we've got our next drawing open. It also has the project's name set in it of ML12001. And because that is set, in our options, we already have the project's file search path in here. So any drawing that has ML12001 as a project name will use this as a reference for the reference files. So it's handy, you know, you might have your reference files somewhere on the server and being used by multiple jobs. They're not always in the same folder as your drawing or a subfolder of your current drawing. They could be anywhere. So if you find that you have to restore from backup or somewhere and the reference files are going to be stored elsewhere, you can set the path in here. So if I've moved my drawings around, I want to move references elsewhere, all I need to do is just change this path here to suit wherever the references are. Okay, another way of managing reference files, which could be easier, is in Windows, if we go to the Start bar, go to All Applications, and if we expand any of the AutoCAD entries that we have here, you'll see in here there's an item called Reference Manager. Reference Manager, that application doesn't get a shortcut when we have Civil3D installed. If you need to access that application, it's located, I've just got to be able to move that over here on screen. It's located in Program Files, Autodesk, and then whatever version of AutoCAD you're running. And the file is adrefman. So I can click on that and that will start the reference manager, or I can come back here, start, all programs, come down to an AutoCAD entry if you have it, and click on reference manager.
Do we have any idea, Selwyn, why for the Civil3D users it's not referenced in the
No, I don't.
No.
It's installed, but there's no shortcut created.
Strange. Yeah, okay. All right, no problem.
The only reason that I have it installed is because I installed the AutoCAD platform before I did the Civil3D.
Yeah. Okay.
But if it's just a standalone Civil3D, you won't get that shortcut. So you'll have to go to that folder.
Fantastic.
And start that, or just right-click, create shortcut, wherever that is, and place it somewhere that you would like.
Great.
But the Reference Manager is a fantastic tool for managing your reference files. You'll see, I'll just bring that over on my folders here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to open some drawings. I'm going to add drawings. I'm going to add some of these drawings from this folder here. So I'll go Sheet 1. Oh, I won't go to that many files. To Sheet 18. Click on Open. If you've got X references in your drawing, I would add all X references automatically, regardless of nesting level, because sometimes the nested files are located in different locations than the main reference file. So add all X references automatically. It'll go through each of the drawings, querying what is in that drawing. So it'll look at the CTB files, your plot files. It'll look at your line types. It'll looks at your reference files, your plotting settings, and there's a few other options. I've just gone a little bit blank there at the moment, but we'll see in just a moment. So it's gone through. We've got each of our drawings that we've just added, and you'll see there's little red icons next to them. So if I select one of them, go over the right-hand side here, it will show everything in that reference file. Expand that, and we can get into fonts, plot configurations, plot styles, shapes, and X references. You'll see in here that we've got, excuse me just a moment. Sorry, that was dry throat, that one. So you'll see here, we've got not found in here for our reference files. So if we were to open ML1 sheet 1, we'll have missing reference files. So what we're going to do is we're going to change the view and we're going to list it by reference type. So I'll click on fonts, highlight fonts, and we'll scroll through here, and probably most of my fonts will have a green check mark next to them. So all the fonts are okay. Plot configurations, I'll have missing ones here. I'll ignore those ones because I don't actually have the plot settings that I need. Plot styles are the same thing. You can come through and you can repath to the plotting. However, I'm just going to continue down to Xrefs. And you'll see that we've got these not found items. We can sort them by status. These ones are all being found, and they've been found in ./references. So these ones that have the entry missing or not available, we'll just highlight them all, right-click, edit selected paths, and we'll change the selected path to ./references. Okay. And you'll see here, it's resolved those ones that had the issue. So once we got those resolved, we'll go and we'll click on Apply Changes, Yes to All. So it'll go through and it'll resave all the X references and all the drawings, just so that ./reference setting is created. That'll take a moment to do. So I'm going to come back into here. You recall before I set the project name. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to remove that. And if I was to reopen that drawing, the reference files would be missing. However, I'm going to let this continue doing what it's doing once it finishes. I'll come back to that one in a minute because that's still doing its magic. With reference files, you often find that you might want to grab a line or something out of a reference file. So there's a command called Ncopy, and that's an Express tool. So it's located on Express tools, and it's to do with blocks or X references. So it'll be under blocks, and the command is copy nested objects, or Ncopy. So I'll do it from the command line, Ncopy. So it's asking me to select nested objects to copy. So I want to get this fence line. So I'll highlight the fence line, enter. It's asking for a base point. I'm just going to choose a base point anywhere. So it's there, and I want it to come into my current drawing at the same location. So what I'm going to do is to shift at, and that object will come into the current drawing. Hold on, Ncopy. I'll grab that one. I've got turn that one off at. So that will have come into the same place. Okay, we'll try this one again. Ncopy. Grab that line. Hold on, I'll grab that one instead. I've got both. So I want to pick a base point. I don't want to actually go anywhere with it. I'll turn ortho off. And I want it to come back into that same base point. So shift at, the at's just above 2. And you'll now find that I have that object in my drawing. So that's come out of an X reference. So if you look at that, hold on, we'll just highlight that. That's an external reference. So it's copied those lines out of that external reference into our current drawing. Or sometimes it's handy to get those sort of things coming into our drawing. Okay, we'll go and have a look at Reference Manager. The one I couldn't update would be the drawing that I have open at the moment. So you recall I removed the project name from the options. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go back into that folder. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to open one of the drawings that we've just modified. I'll go sheet 9, drag it up here onto the title and drop it, and it will open that. Okay, that didn't work particularly well. Maybe I should have done the full path. Hold on. Anyway, it should have worked because it looks, hold on, I've missed some of them. Hold on, I'll go back. I'll go back to view by drawing. Okay, it should have updated. I'll just try another one. I'll try 6. Still not quite right. In theory, I'm not sure, maybe I've chosen the wrong files or something, but it should work. I'm just going to remove drawings. And I'm going to, sorry, cancel. I'm just going to add a single drawing. I'm going to choose 17, open, add all XREFs.
I suppose as much as anything, Selwyn, this is a good example of this is a typical kind of thing where you're going to end up opening up a drawing, go through referencing, making sure everything's connected back up, and then look, at the end of the day, you end up missing things inherently.
Yeah. I think this one will be okay now. I'm just going to right-click, repath all of them, and I'm actually going to explore to the path this time. So I'll go to References, okay. Apply changes, yes to all. And when that one finishes, I'm going to open sheet 17 of 17, sorry, sheet 17.
And I suppose one of the big things about this is just the time that this thing is saving. Look, before
it's going through 20,
go on.
It's modifying 25 reference files. We've got one drawing, but there's 25 references in that drawing. So that's why it's taking a while. So I'm going to head back to AutoCAD. Just while that's doing that one, I'll go to Layout, File. Bit of a mess at the moment. You'll see in here we've got different layers. We've got some rubbish in here as well. I'm just going to undo 10 steps, and that might get rid of some of those. Okay, we're back to pretty much where we were. So with Layer Manager, you might have drawings that are to be used for electrical or for different purposes, and you need a different display for each of those. So we've got our standard display here. So we're going to go to this here, Layer States Manager, Alt-S. We're going to create a new layer state, and I'm going to call that one Default. So this is going to be our standard one. So we've got that layer state. We might want to create a new layer state in here, or we can come back in here, click Close, back into here, and we might find that everything that is the gray color and that one, we want it to be that color there. Actually, we'll send them, just for an example, I'll send everything to a different color. So it's grayed out like for an electrical plan or something like that. So we're going back into layer states, new, and we'll call this one electrical. Close. And then we'll do another one with different colors. We'll just do a few of the layers a different color. We'll just go for anything. We'll change the line type. I'm just picking anything and anything at the moment. So you'll see it's changed on screen. And maybe we want to call this one, we'll create a new layer state and we'll call it review. Okay, so we've now created 3 layer states. We've got default, electrical, and review. Normal and ACET layer, so we're already in here. That used to be one that was used with the Express tools back before the Layer States Manager became part of AutoCAD. So Electrical, we can come in here and we can press edit and we can change any of the settings in here that we want. We found we missed a one here. We want that one to be 8 as well. Save. So now when we'll go for default, if I double click on default, you'll see that the colors return to the normal state they were in before. If we bring up the Layer States Manager again, double click on electrical, it reverts to the electrical plan. Now, if we go to the review one, double click, it switches to review. So you can have different layer states for different disciplines in your office, and you can set those up those ways. You can also edit, and if you've got additional layers that you want to come in to show in that state, they can be modified also. You also have the layer filters, but the layer manager is probably a great way if you've got multiple disciplines to be created from the same reference file or something like that. You'll be able to do that. And you've got the normal rename, delete, and all that sort of stuff in here. You can import and export, which is handy to have. And down here, it's got don't list layer states in X references, because you may not want to change the colors in X references, but generally you will. And you can turn off layers not found in layer state. So if you've created some new layers like text layers or something like that, they will, after you've created these, they will not show up unless this is unchecked. Okay, so that's a handy little tool for different display options. And whilst we're in here, we'll have a look at layer merge. We've got, sorry, I've just lost my mouse somewhere. Oh, that's updated. I'll just move that out of the way. I'm not sure what's going on with AutoCAD. I seem to have frozen a little bit. Okay, we're back. Okay, we might have a few layers that are on the wrong layers, or we want to merge them. So we can select the layers, right click, layer merge, merge selected layers to, and we might want them all to go onto the layer furniture, a fern. Okay, okay, and you'll see that those layers now get purged out of our drawing, and all those entities are now on the layer a fern.
Selwyn.
Yes.
Got an interesting question here about the Layer Status Manager, whether or not it can be used for viewport overrides. So I'm presuming that means, can we have a different layer state within a viewport?
Hold on, we'll just take a look for you. I suspect not.
No, I think it's
I'm just going to go back to default. Hold on, I'll go into the viewport. Regen all. No, I've still got those strange colors. Hold on. I'm just going to go back. I've almost run out of content for today, by the way. So any questions or whatever? That's pretty much, I was going to have a look at groups, and that's the last entry that I've got.
Yeah, great, Selwyn.
So I'm just going to go back to default, just set that back to normal. I'm going to create a viewport. And we'll have to go in there to create the layer state. Layer manager, new, I'll just call it VP. And I'm going to edit. And there's no mention of paper space or layouts or anything like that. Normally, if we have a look at the normal layer manager, we've got VP freeze, VP line type, VP line weight. So there's no facility with the layer manager to do that sort of thing. It's only basic layer settings.
I think it'd be stuff of dreams if it was actually available. If you were able to do that, I think it would be quite a fantastic tool.
Yeah, it would be, but
so.
yeah, but I've used it a lot in the past, and it's handy for the different disciplines, just to be able to change the view of things. So my last item was groups, similar to blocks. And you'll see here, we have a group of things here, and they've got a rectangle around them. They've been created as a group. What that means, hold on, I'll just go back to the home. Yeah, home. So over here, there's a little panel for groups. Normally, people create blocks when they're working in, with multiple objects. So you might find that you don't need a block for something. So we can come in here. I'll select some objects, and I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to create a group. It's created an unnamed group. So now when I click on here, it's a separate. It groups all those objects together. If I click on this one here, they're still separate. Now it's in a group, we can move it around, we can copy it, whatever we want to do with it. And it's not actually a block or anything like that. So now we can come over here, we'll turn grouping off, and you'll find now that these are all separate objects. And if we want to work with them again, we'll come over here, we'll turn grouping on, and when we select the object, we've got those as one item again. Can come in handy for something like this, but a lot of people will just create a block that would be for that object and do it that way. But if you just want to create groups and just mess around with them, you can do that in here. And you've got the controls, you've got your group manager. You'll find that I didn't name the groups. You could name the groups whatever you like. So I'm going to click on include unnamed, and that's all the groups that are in my drawing. They're all unnamed. However, when we click on a group in here, we should find that. So that's a group here. So there's 40 objects in that group. There's still separate entities in our drawing, not like a block. So with a block, if that was a block, that will be a series of 40 entities. When we copy it up here, it will be a block, and it would only be one entity that uses the definition of that line. So it'll take up less space if you use blocks, but with groups, it'll just duplicate. So when I put it up here, I've got another 40 objects. Put it up here, I've got another 40 objects. And that will make your drawing just grow and grow exponentially. So if you've got a lot of blocks or what you want to use as groups, it's probably worth looking at blocks rather than groups. And yeah, I think I'm about there. Jonathan?
We are having questions about blocks, and just before Selwyn began this presentation, we were discussing forthcoming webcasts. And what I'd like to do is very quickly just pop up a poll which offers a number of different multiple choice options in respect of future webcasts from us. So if you have got just 2 seconds, just to quickly just click on basically any of the options you would like to see reviewed in either a future or in a future single webcast or multiple webcasts. I'm just popping that question up now, and you can click as many of those as you want. So if there's an overall sort of trend here, which it seems to be based on attributes. So when we've got blocks, xrefs, dynamic blocks, attributes, and fields, certainly fields and attributes and dynamic blocks is taking the precedent here. Attributes is the biggie.
Yep.
Thank you very much for answering that. If for whatever reason you have something specific, I know one user did this week, actually, funnily enough, about blocks, hence why we're asking this question now. Feel free to pop to our website. I'm just going to end the poll there. Certainly attributes was the biggie. Selwyn, I'm just going to share my screen if that's okay.
Yeah, before you
Please,
do that,
sorry.
Jonathan,
Go for it.
Reference Manager finished on sheet 17 before. And I've reopened it, and you'll see that all the reference files are associated in the correct positions.
Great stuff.
You know, when I repath to the actual path,
Yep.
so it all comes in correct now. I'm not sure what I did before, but yeah, maybe it just overwhelmed my PC. I'm not sure. But anyway, thank you guys for attending. I really appreciate it, and hope you got something out of today. And I'll hand you back to Jonathan.
Thank you very much. Once I've got PowerPoint up and running again, and I'm not running the same slide that we started off with, so bear with me, folks. Selwyn, can you see my screen?
I can, yes.
Yeah, so the recording that Selwyn did last month is available on YouTube. This will also be available on YouTube. In respect of your webcast suggestions, we've now made this completely anonymous, so it's very much like a normal suggestion box. You type in if it's suggestion or not, provide it to us, and then we can go away and work with it. If you did select one of those options a minute ago on that poll, and you want to give us more detail about specifics, by all means, go to this particular link and provide us with that content, and then Selwyn particularly will be then reviewing that content with me to see what we can come up with in respect of webcast content for you. Next week, we have a fantastic webcast showing you some of the V21 functionality on civil site design, where we're going to be demonstrating how to exchange pipes between civil site design and Civil3D with the new tools that we've got in version 21. So really that just leaves me to say thanks, Selwyn, and we'll look forward to catching up with as many of you as we can in next week's webcast. So keep you posted. Thanks ever so much. Thank you, Selwyn.
Thank you.